Welcome to Overthinking Eurovision. I'm Matt Rather. Last time, we shared our thoughts on the grand final of Eurovision 2024. After that, we needed a week or two to decompress. We're back for one last video to thank the many people who make Overthinking Eurovision possible, and then bid you a fond farewell until 2025. Assuming there is a Eurovision 2025. Who knows at this point? First, we want to thank you. Everyone who watched our videos, and especially everyone who took the time to write us a kind or a thoughtful comment. And I'm not just pandering, I swear. We actually have one of the best comment sections on the internet. And our viewers are always willing, eager even, to share their knowledge, their insight, and their, well, actuallys. Let me kick things over to New York, where Matt Belinkie has a few corrections, additions, and fun facts.
Hi everyone, Matt Belinkie here. I wrote all the videos this year except for the Celine Dion one and the Eurovision Artists as Pokemon shorts. Yes, that's a real thing, go check it out. Thank you everybody so much for all the comments this year. I read all of them. Maybe I read them too much. I would be in an important business meeting and I would still stop and check my phone anytime anybody posted a comment. My coworkers probably thought I was checking on a sick child or something, but it was actually a dude in Moldova who wanted me to know that they still love Still in Love with You, and how dare I. And some of my favorite comments this year were the ones that pointed out the mistakes I made or the interesting details that I missed. So I wanted to take some time to share with you what you taught us this year. First of all, in the France video, we snarked on Lazara for saying that the middle finger means something different to her.
Canadians, can you confirm that the middle finger is the Great White North equivalent of a thumbs down?
Several of you pointed out that she wasn't talking about Canada here, she was talking about Morocco.
You know, in Morocco, you know, the finger, we do like that.
Like that?
Like that, and then you say...
I still think using a gesture on live television that is an insult to like 99% of the world isn't the smartest move, but it makes more sense now. In the video about Azerbaijan's hot streak, we said that John Ballard is British. He probably should have been listed as British-Swedish because he has been living in Sweden for like 50 years at this point. He actually competed in Melodifestivalen in 1983 and 1984 in Swedish with barely any accent at all. In the Norway video, we actually got the subtitle of the lyrics wrong for this part. What she actually said in that clip was, "She cursed me to walk lonely in the woods." The part about ripping out her heart comes much later in the song, and apparently it's barely audible in the performance version. In the Eras 2 video, that is not a double guitar like we said, but actually a double electric bass. Apparently, this prolific Swedish songwriter is actually pronounced Thomas Gesson, not Thomas Gesson. Here's a question for the Swedes. Let's say that you wanted to name yourself Thomas Gesson. How would you spell that? When we talked about Vanilla Ninja, we mentioned that when the band competed in Eurolol 2003, they won the televote by a huge margin. But the televote that year had no impact on the selection, which was entirely in the hands of the jury. However, somebody from the Discord told us that there was a prize for winning the televote in 2003, and it was the most 2003 prize ever, a boombox that played MP3 CDs. And you Zoomers will never understand what a game changer it was to burn 100 songs to a single disc. By the way, the guy holding the boombox here is Vanilla Ninja's original manager, Sven Lumus. Sven is an absolute legend in the Estonian music scene to this day, and maybe his greatest claim to fame was writing the music and lyrics for this song. One of the most embarrassing moments of the year for me was not a mistake per se. It was in the Finland video when I mentioned I was not familiar with the song Freestyler. Literally hundreds of people expressed shock that I could be so uncool. But look, until I was like 17, I pretty much exclusively listened to Broadway musicals, Billy Joel, Meatloaf, and Weird Al Yankovic. Rather is the one with taste, I'm the funny one. There was another big oversight in the Finland video. We talked about Windows 95 Man teaming up with Epic Tax Guy, a meme character created by the Finnish tax agency. What we completely overlooked there is that Epic Tax Guy was an obvious reference to a beloved Eurovision meme, Epic Sax Guy. Someone pointed out a couple possible inspirations for the Windows 95 Man persona. There's Markku, who actually covered Eurovision when Finland hosted in 2007, and there's a guy named Stig, formerly known as Stig Dog. Both of these characters are from Finland, and they both have the hat, the mustache, and most importantly, the awkward demeanor. Now look, a lot of you took issue with my statement that the tax rate in Finland was 43% versus 24% in the United States. Obviously, I didn't mean that everybody in Finland pays exactly 43%. That's not how taxes work, except in SimCity. So what did I mean? Well, my source for this was just the text that appears right at the top of the Google search, which, pro tip, is more and more wrong with every passing day. Now, I went back and checked out the original source, and it turned out the 43% is actually the Finnish tax wedge. The tax wedge is the personal income tax plus the Social Security contribution. You know what? I don't actually care. The important thing is you all pay a lot of taxes over there, and maybe I should have just left it at that. Here's an interesting theory about Windows 95 Man's big denim egg. The Kalevala is a 19th century Finnish epic poem, and it was key to shaping the country's national identity. And in the Kalevala, the word was formed out of the broken fragments of a giant egg. So you might call this an Easter egg for Finns who paid attention in high school. Finally, I regret to inform you that Henry does not provide the voice of my personal hero, Bandit from Bluey, but he does provide the voices of Stripe, Rad, Pats, and others. By the way, did anybody else cry while watching The Sign? God, I love those healers so much. You should be very proud, Australia. Moving on to the Celine Dion video, here is the happiest correction of the year. Mark talked about her tragic health issues and noted,
her last public appearance was in November 2023.
Now, although we posted this video in late March, it was actually recorded way back in December. And in February 2024, guess who made a surprise appearance at the Grammy Awards?
When I say that I'm happy to be here, I really mean it from my heart.
So, I have a confession to make. I do not know who Vsauce is. Should I be ashamed? Is this more embarrassing than not knowing the song Freestyler? All I know about Vsauce is that he apparently looks a lot like Marco from Pulup. There are actually like 20 comments about it, and even Marco himself joked about it. After we posted our video about Estonia's song, there were 3 people with claims to fame that showed up in the comments. First, this guy's dad built the tar hoppers that the band uses. Secondly, this guy had Marco as a teacher in college. Most excitingly, this gentleman was the production team supervisor for Estonia's 2002 Eurovision show, and he was the guy who suggested putting the video about the evil queen right before Slovenia's drag queens performed. So here's something really interesting about Nendis that a commenter pointed out. We talked about the song's reference to Police Chronica, the Estonian version of Cops. One of the most famous Police Chronica episodes is known as Siberian Money Boss. And in the Siberian Money Boss episode, a woman says 2 things. First, we don't have any junkies here. Secondly, this dress that I'm wearing, this was found in a garbage can. And of course, both of these lines are paraphrased right at the beginning of Nendis, right before the mention of Police Chronica. And you know what? This would not even be the first time that Vis Minus sang about the Siberian Money Boss episode. They did a collaboration in 2018 that was a remake of a song originally inspired by Siberian Money Boss. Now, someone let us know that just because an Estonian has a suvila, which is a summer cottage, it doesn't necessarily mean they are rich. These aren't like luxury houses on the French Riviera. Fair enough. And here's something we were very wrong about. We made a big deal about how before Nendis came along, the longest Eurovision title ever was the Social Network song, But it was actually the 1964 West German song, oh boy. Okay, here we go. Man gewöhnt sich so schnell an das Schöne. That is 34 letters, and at least one person is sad that after 60 years, Germany has to give up the title of the longest title. And by the way, You don't need to post a comment to let me know that I'm mispronouncing things. I know I'm mispronouncing things. That's why I have rather. The Yugoslavia video was one of the pieces I was the most excited about while I was writing it. That 1990 Eurovision that was sandwiched between the fall of the Berlin Wall and the Yugoslav Civil War is something I would gladly watch an entire documentary on. But I did not do enough homework here. As many of you pointed out, Yugoslavia was not emerging from behind the Iron Curtain, as I said, because it was never cut off from the rest of the world. Tourists were always welcome in Yugoslavia, and Yugoslav citizens could travel freely. In fact, Yugoslav citizens could travel freely to the west or the east, making Yugoslav passports some of the most valuable in the world on the black market. People also threw cold water on my theory that Croatia was sending Western-style rock songs as a political statement. Western rock music was just super popular in Croatia. Honestly, I think my American public school anti-communist indoctrination was showing here, and I just kind of assumed that Yugoslavia was East Germany with better beaches. So, here is my challenge to you. Suggest a fun summer book for me to read about Yugoslavia in English. Something that will teach me a little about what it was really like there in the 70s and 80s. A novel would be cool, something I could read out on my balcony with a pitcher of sangria. Or whatever you drink in Yugoslavia. I guess I'll find out when I read the book. A couple more corrections about the Yugoslavia video. The Brandenburg Gate was not a border crossing, as I said. It was next to the Berlin Wall, but it wasn't part of it. The reason Norway's Eurovision song in 1990 was called Brandenburg Gate was because the gate became a focus of the celebrations when the wall finally fell. And the band Riva is from Zadar, not Zagreb. This was just carelessness because later in the same video, I actually quote the lead singer talking about how proud they all are to be from Zadar. In the Greece video, many of you were flabbergasted that I would confuse a Skoda with a BMW. But please bear in mind that I have never seen a Skoda before in my life. My source for saying it was a Skoda was my good friend Glenn, who lives in Athens. Glenn, if you're watching this, hang your head in shame. Moving on to Croatia, I said that Marko started the Baby Lasagna project because he wasn't having much luck selling his songs to other people. I don't remember where I got that information from, but it definitely seems incorrect. In fact, Marko co-wrote some tracks on the album Raven Black for the band Mono Inc. When Raven Black was released in 2023, it went to #1 on the German charts. Several of you thought it was weird that I cited Electric Callboy as one of Baby Lasagna's big influences, but I didn't mention his biggest influence, Rammstein. So here we go. In an interview with Weeby Blogs, Marko said, "Rammstein all the way. When I first started, the first riff, I wanted it to sound like a Rammstein riff. And Karja has a Rammstein tattoo, and he said he wanted it to sound like Rammstein in the first part of the song, so we both took from Rammstein. And he may have taken more than the riff. Look at this recent Rammstein music video from 2022. You got the native dress, the washboard, the cow, and I bet if you could look at Marko's browser history, you would see that he's watched this video more than a few times. And we want to emphasize one last time this year that we are totally cool with artists taking inspiration from other artists. That's how art is supposed to work, guys. Finally, at the beginning of the Croatia video, we expressed complete bafflement about why Let 3 had all the chickens in their Baba Roga song. But someone pointed out that one of the most well-known things about Baba Roga is that she lives in a house with chicken legs. The Rambo Amadeus video had the most frustrating mistake of the year. I mentioned that Rambo's father was the famous Serbian archaeologist Dragoslav Surejovic. This was mentioned in an interview with the Belgrade City Museum, which seemed like a pretty solid source. But it turned out the Belgrade City Museum had posted a bad translation. The original text of the Serbian interview said that Rambo's father was a colleague of Dragoslav. And this is why, if you're doing real serious fact-checking, you always get two sources. Here's an interesting observation about Euroneuro. One of the big scary words that Rambo starts off the song with is analphabetic.
Analphabetic.
In the video, we thought it was ironic that he would use an obscure word to mean illiterate, but this comment pointed out that in many languages, the word for illiterate is actually very close to analphabetic. Here's Italian, here's German. So for many Europeans, analphabetic might be easier to understand than illiterate. Now, in the data analysis video, the big mistake came right at the beginning, before we even got into the data.
somehow realigned the magnetic forces of Stonehenge, thus ruining England's Eurovision mojo.
Referring to the UK as England is a big no-no, and I would like to sincerely apologize before I have a bunch of angry Scots hunting me down with pitchforks. In terms of our methodology, we missed something important. Our system was that the Big Five nations are evaluated as if they only competed against the countries in the grand final, and other nations are evaluated against all participating countries. What we forgot is that the country that won Eurovision the previous year goes to the grand final automatically. For instance, in 2015, we said that Austria had a scaled score of 0.359 because it finished 26th in the grand final and there were 40 countries competing. But bro, Austria in 2015 qualified for the final automatically, thanks to Conchita Wurst, and they received no points. They did as badly as possible, and their scaled score should be 0. But I'm going to be totally honest here. I am not super excited to bash my head against the spreadsheet anymore to figure out how to fix these formulas. So if anybody wants to download it from that link and do it for me, just email me the updated version at bolinki@overthinkingit.com. I will be happy to post the new version in the description and credit you. In the Netherlands versus UK video, a few people pointed out that comparing Ollie's chart performance to Mae Muller's chart performance the year before wasn't fair, because Mae didn't hit the top 10 until after Eurovision 2023. So I would owe a big apology to Ollie if his song experienced a similar bump this year. Unfortunately for him, it didn't happen. And by the way, some people felt this video was unnecessarily just bashing Ollie to make Joost feel good. But that was not my intention. I actually like Ollie. I like his music. I think it's really impressive he pulled off an acting career at the same time. And one of the things I didn't have time to mention is that he's been a real advocate for mental health issues. He's really used his celebrity to try to make some positive change in the world. Not everybody can say that. The point of the video was not to bring down Ollie, it was to think about why some songs succeed against the odds and why others just don't resonate despite the BBC's best efforts. We did weeks and weeks of research to create our 2 videos on ABBA and its legacy, but one thing that apparently we missed in the research was how to correctly pronounce ABBA. Okay guys, it's 2 a.m. here in New York City. I have to post this video in like an hour, and I just realized I mispronounced the name of the band again in the video where I was attempting to apologize for mispronouncing the name of the band. So let's see if I can do this one more time. ABBA. ABBA? ABBA. But here's the deal. Look at this video from this YouTube channel where all he does is pronounce things.
ABBA. Pretty straightforward. It's not ABBA, but rather ABBA.
And he's got 1 million subscribers, so what's going on? Is he wrong? Are you wrong? Are you the person that's complaining that we mispronounced it wrong? Okay. Final answer. ABBA. ABBA. That's the best you're gonna get. Finally, in the wrap-up video, a bunch of people wanted to know why the background of some of our graphics is a century-old map. Honestly, it was just an aesthetic choice. Old maps have a personality that screenshots of Google Maps generally don't. But I could see how this map might rub you the wrong way if your relatives died to change that map. So moving forward, we will update the graphics to something more contemporary. And I actually have something I want to use these new graphics for immediately. People sometimes ask me, Matt, how do you know so much about Eurovision? And I want to be totally clear. I don't know anything about Eurovision. Europe, music, pronunciation, most subjects actually. But I do know something about research, asking good questions, taking a lot of notes, tying everything together into a story that flows, and maybe adding a few fart jokes. So if you are impressed by the information in these videos, here are some people that you can thank. These are the folks from our Discord and from Reddit who generously gave up their time to share their observations, explain their culture, translate clips, fact check, and even sometimes suggest a title that was way more clever than whatever I was about to use. The videos this year would not have been nearly as good without all of their help. Thank you so much. And hey, if you want to be one of the people who helps overthink Eurovision in the future, now is the perfect time to join the Discord. Here's a little secret. I purposely only tell people how to join the Discord in the first video of the year and the last video of the year because I only want the people who really get where we're coming from. And if you're still watching at this point, I'm guessing that's you. So email me at belinky@overthinkingit.com and I will send back your invitation. A couple more thank yous before I sign off. Thank you to everybody who played Apocalypse Now, our augmented reality game. And if you didn't get a chance, all of the puzzles and hidden videos are still out there to find. Let me show you something. As of May 28th, this was the number of views for the Europapa video. This was the number of views for the Apocalypse lore video that was hidden in there. And this was the number of views for the hidden video that was hidden inside the hidden video. Only 23 people have ever seen this 2-minute animation that I worked all night on. Do you want to be the 24th person to see it? Give it a shot. There's some fun stuff waiting for you, I promise. Thank you to Yui, our assistant video editor. I could never have kept up with the huge amount of content we produced this year without his hard work. Special thank you to my wife and children who have to put up with me absolutely obsessing over this for 6 months of the year. You have been very patient with me, and I owe all of you a trip to Chuck E. Cheese and or the spa, whichever you prefer. And finally, a big thanks to Matt Rather. He is not only one of my very best friends in the world, he is the most talented performer I know. And if you think about it, that is a huge stroke of luck for me. How awkward would it be if Rather really wanted to host these videos, but I knew somebody else who wasn't that good of a friend but was a lot better on camera? Luckily, Rather is both an amazing friend and an amazing host, and I have been very lucky to be able to make cool stuff with him for decades now.
I appreciate that, Matt. And hey, let me echo your thanks to everyone participating in our Discord, and especially those folks who came to our weekly video calls, who listened to me read drafts of the scripts, and who corrected my pronunciation. Contrary to what you may believe about Americans, I really love learning new languages, and I am personally grateful to our Discord advisors who shared their time and their culture so freely. I hope seeing a sneak preview of the videos a couple weeks early was worth it. But about those words I pronounce, I didn't write any of them. I'm always very gratified when people like our videos and say things like, "This guy is my favorite Eurovision commentator." But it also makes me just a little uncomfortable because this guy is just reading words that Belinky wrote. It's like, I'm just a puppet and he has his hand. You know what? Let's not belabor the metaphor. Suffice it to say, if you like the way these videos are written and produced, you have Matt Belinky to thank. And in 2024, I am so proud of my boy. This year, we had video reviews. We had Overthinking Eurovision Looks Back videos, and a whole-ass alternate reality game hidden in video freeze frames, which took more time to create than everything else put together, and ended up featuring Windows 95 Man.
Did somebody say rules?
The most popular video this year turned out to be our 50-minute essay about Ollie Alexander and Joost Klein, which was a tour de force for Belinky. But I think the video that really epitomizes what he's after in this whole Overthinking Eurovision project was our video about Greece. It linked Marina Sati's musical career with global politics, with a hilarious story about Martin Heidegger, with multiple books about tourist theory, with a close reading of the music video for Zari. Producing American video commentaries on Eurovision may be a minor art, but it is still beautiful when you see someone's vision realized perfectly. I mean this as the highest compliment when I say it could only have come out of the head of Matt Belinky. Bravo, my friend. And hey, let me not neglect some of our other friends. Pete Fenzel, Mark Lee, and Jordan Stokes all joined Matt and me on camera this year for the Looks Back series, and Mark actually took it upon himself to write his own script about Celine Dion. These are my smartest, funniest friends, and it is a richer conversation for having their voices join it. Well done, you guys. Harder than it looks, huh? One last person to thank, other than Gus, the majestic basset hound, and Diego, aka Dembo Cat, who made another appearance this year and scratched the heck out of my hand in the process. We'll have some outtakes posted next week. Thank you to the person who shares the house with all of us animals, Christina Rather, my brilliant and beautiful wife, who for the first time appeared on screen this year under her maiden name and was so convincing that a commenter actually asked where they could find books by Dr. Christina Martinez. I have a new video setup this year, so I don't have her as a camera operator and director any longer. More's the pity, because for the last few years, she's been a great help and has made my performance much better. But this year, she's been awfully indulgent when I disappear into my office to do this. Though I'm probably going to have to disappear a little less often next year because we're having a baby. Christina is pregnant, and she and I are expecting a little girl in September. And Belinky is going to try to buy a house next year, which, given what I know about the market and the economy, is sure to be easy and fun. So if you don't see us quite as often on YouTube next year, don't worry. We haven't disappeared or quit the platform or something. We're just raising and housing our families. Or getting up to date on the One Piece anime. One of those. But no matter how busy, as soon as we have a moment to spare, Matt will get behind the keyboard and I'll get in front of the camera. And in no time at all, we'll be back to Overthinking Eurovision. Till then, meow cat. Please meow back. So long, Europe.
ABBA. Pretty straightforward. It's not ABBA, but rather ABBA. ABBA. Swedish groove.